Hey there, so this is a project I did with two other people, and we made a radar out of a ultrasonic distance sensor and a servo motor. The wiring is very basic. All we have is the wiring for the sensor, the servo motor, button with a 1000 ohm resistor, and we wire it all up. It looks like a mess. I promise it's not that much. And what the function of this is that the servo motor turns a degree as quickly as it can without moving too much and getting a good read. And every single time it turns to a degree, the sensor senses that and senses how far away the nearest object it's looking at is. And then it holds that number in inches, which is what the code tells it to do. Then, as when it gets to something really close, like say I put my hand right here or this tissue box right here, it'll realize that when it's pointing at this, that's really close. So it'll hold that number in the back. And then when it goes all around and it finds that this is still the closest number, it'll turn back to the number that is the lowest that it remembers. That's how it basically works. Now I'll show you the code. So we have a global variable for the current read, which is just basically showing us what the sensor is reading right now at the degree that the servo motor is pointing at. The lowest read, which is what the lowest read is so that the servo motor can remember. 470 is the max of the sensor, so we automatically put it there just so that the sensor has something to base it off of and to compare to. Then we have a placeholder, which is the lowest read, or the lowest read that we have now, or the number we have now. The pin for the button, the pin for the trig pin of the sensor, the pin for the echo pin of the sensor. Then this is a line of code for the sensor. You'll find this in a Sage textbook. This is for the servo motor. This is also for the servo motor. You'll find all of this in the Sage textbook under its respective chapter. Then we have a serial monitor setup, and then this is for the the sensor. Excuse me. This is another line for the servo. Then we have the void loop. Okay, so if statement. So if the button is turned on, if digital read button equals 1, then for loop, int x equals 0, x is less than or equal to 180, x plus plus. So it'll go through the entire for loop 180 times, corresponding to the 180 degrees that the servo motor can reach. So every single time the for loop happens, it writes the degree out of 180, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 after each for loop. Then the sensor works out in the serial monitor and displays a number. Those are about 5 lines of code. Then and this is for the sensor as well. Then inches equals duration divided by 74 divided by 2, which is just turning the number that the sensor has into inches for us, for simplicity's sake. Then we print the amount of inches that the sensor measures. Then we have a delay for 100 just to make sure that it's getting an accurate reading and has enough time to do everything it needs to do. Then we current read equals inches. So at each degree, it says that whatever it measures is the current read. And then if current read is less than lowest read, which at the very beginning is 470, then we say lowest read equals current read, and then placeholder equals x. So we hold this place of the lowest read, and and so for later, in this, my server.write placeholder after the for loop will go to the degree in which the lowest number was read. Now I'll show you how it all works. First I'll describe how this contraption works. We use a laser cutter and designed a mount for the sensor. And then we designed an arrow and this piece to mount it to the servo. We just nailed it to the bottom of that. We screwed it in. And then we made this mount that slips right into where the servo is, where there's a little hole for the wires. And then we attached a big block of oak so that it's heavy enough to to counteract the torque of the servo motor every single time it moves. Now I shall show you how it works. So we're gonna want the radar to point to this tissue box right here. Now I'll push the button, and it'll go through 180 degrees. So right now it's measuring every single degree that the servo can reach. And once it reaches 180, it points back to the tissue box. Now, bear in mind that the reason it doesn't point to this place, which is obviously closer, is because the sensor measures in inches, and the difference between that and this point is so little in inches that it can't really tell the difference. But that's the closest. So there's our answer, and that is that. Thank you.